Alright, well this was the 570 after we got the engine out. So obviously we gotta take this thing apart. We'll start by pulling the 3 valve cover bolts, which the valve cover comes off. Pull the 27 millimeter bolt, pull the cam chain tensioner, so it takes the slack or takes the tension off the cam chain. There's several 8 millimeter bolts on top of this engine which you will have to remove. They're very simple to remove. I've already pre-loosened these for you for the purposes of the video. So obviously all these will be torqued. You'll want to relieve the torque on them as smoothly as possible to avoid damaging anything. Then you can remove that assembly, set it to the side, out of the way, take into account for all the bolts. And with the cam chain tensioner removed, you'll be able to basically just slip the cams right out. And the good thing about it is you don't have to worry about the timing chain, because it can't really go anywhere. So you just pull the timing gears, or the camshaft I should say, pull the cam out. 2 camshafts. Then there's head bolts. There'll be 4 head bolts in here. So we'll remove the head bolts. Okay, so once you get the head bolts out, you'll notice these are torqued to yield. So you're only going to be able to use these once. I highly recommend throwing these in the garbage. Don't reuse these unless you want to do this job again. So once we got those out, got the gasket here. You can probably just leave the gasket, but we're just going to peel it out. I've already got the stator cover off, FYI, which will expose your flywheel, which you're going to need a puller for, by the way. So at that point, your head should become loose enough where you can remove the head. Let me pause this. Okay, we've paused it. Got the cylinder head off. Be very careful with these. On the inside of each one of these, there's a small wedge. Basically, it's a shim, a bucket shim for the tops of each one of these valves, and they're very, very specific. So you cannot mix these up. If for some reason one of them falls or gets dropped or whatever, you're gonna have to get it back in the right spot, or you're gonna be in big trouble. Obviously, you'll use a feeler gauge to determine, see if your valves are set correctly or whatnot. Let me get a pair of pliers, some needle nose. I'll grab one for you. Give me 1 second. Let me pause this. Okay, so we'll lift this out. See under the bottom there. I don't know if you can see it with the light, but you'll actually see there's numbers. There's numbers in there that indicate the shim size for that particular one. But like I said, it's really important that you don't mix these up. So for the time being, we're just going to leave them in the engine in the positions in which they were in. So once we get those in the spots where they go, there, give me 1 second. Let me put that back. Okay, so we got those back in the right position. So while we did that, we went ahead and pulled the gasket there, which we're not going to need. We're going to get a new one. This is our jug. We already pulled the piston and everything, but I just sat it back on there. Basically, you can pull the jug out. You can see where this one had some pretty severe fretting on the bottom of the jug down there. See, and that was due to the severity of this locked up bearing. This bearing was really locked up on here. And I have another video, but you can kind of see how far this thing goes up and down. Let me mean, that's a hell of a lot of play for a bearing. So we got it stripped down to here. Then you're going to want to take, there are several bolts that go into the side of the case here. You'll see all the different holes where they come out of. Basically, you know, they come out like right there. Take all those bolts out. And then you'll split the, you know, you'll see the case it's split right here. Actually, you can get your fingernail in there. We still have to pull the flywheel. I'm waiting on a puller so we can finish that. But after that, we'll do the reassembly. And then we'll show you how to check your valve clearances, your lash and all, make sure everything's correctly done when you put it back together. This one was extremely tight. We found it to have, we couldn't even get a 3,000th shim down in between there. So the one side was 8 thousandths, which was in the plus or minus 2 of 6. Yeah, so once we get this together, once I get the puller and everything else, we'll go ahead and we'll formulate a video putting it back together. Our parts are supposed to be here Wednesday, so there's everything after it's apart. I'm going to cover everything up, obviously. It's still got to go, everything's got to be clean, so we'll take it, and once the cases are apart, we'll take the parts washer and clean everything thoroughly, and then we'll install all the new parts. But so yeah, stay tuned. We'll have that one coming up next.